Hi, I'm Donna Kay in North Pole, Alaska, and this is my mast cell story. I am a lifelong mast cell sufferer. I didn't get diagnosed until I was 35 years old because before that there was pretty much no such thing as a mast cell disorder and no way to test for it and no treatment for it. I kind of got stuck dealing with it on my own for most of my life. And I did pretty good for myself. I just slept a lot more than a normal person did, or a normal child did. I had a good childhood for the most part. There were things I was sensitive to, and there were a couple items that I was allergic to, but other than that, I was good. I was a normal kid, other than the sleeping part. In high school was good. I was in a bunch of sports, doing all the things normal high school kids do, with one exception. I was in bed by 6 or 7 o'clock at night every night because I was always so tired. And when I hit puberty, that's when everything went bonkers. I was reacting to everything. And I tried to describe it to doctors as like, I'm so sensitive. It's like my body is overreacting to things. And they would just scratch their heads and be like, it's all in your head. We did find out, though, that I was allergic to my monthly cycle, like you would not believe. So that made things really rough. But after puberty, things quieted down. Everything was good. And it's kind of back to being a normal kid again, or a teenager now, with the exception of needing to sleep more and a few sensitivities. That was it. I wound up joining the U.S. Air Force. I was also trained in emergency management, and with emergency management, that's working mass casualty incidents, natural disasters, major war operations. I did search and rescue. I did my first hostage negotiation at age 21. And I loved my job. It wasn't until I started getting into my 30s is when I really started noticing symptoms. And to give you an idea of kind of some of the symptoms I had inflammation that was so bad that I wound up having to start to wear maternity clothes because I would leave the house a size 6 and come back a size 12 or more. The inflammation was at least 15 pounds worth, and at some point it got so bad that I had to go in and have exploratory surgery, and we discovered that the inflammation was so bad it was actually starting to tear some of my organs. So I had to deal with that too. And I had cognitive issues. One day I walked out of a grocery store and I had no idea what vehicle I owned or where I lived. That got my attention. I would lose motor function, which means I would just not be able to use my arms or my legs. It was like the signal from my brain to my limbs was just not there. That was kind of scary. And then, on top of that, you have the tachycardia, the POTS. And then you have the part where you just nosedive, and it's difficult to stay conscious. I had a lot of memory issues. I would sometimes appear ridiculously drunk. I don't drink alcohol, but I would feel like I was drunk. I'd be loopy, my adrenaline was through the roof, so I was hyper, and my speech was slurred, and I couldn't remember anything longer than 2 seconds, and my husband would look at me and he'd be like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "It's like you're drunk." And I was like, that's how I feel. I discovered I was allergic to blue light, which is all your fluorescent lights, the lights in your TV, your computer, that all affects me. I've had seizure-like activity, ears, oh my gosh, the ringing in the ears, the blindness, the temporary blindness, the migraines, just the nerve pain from the inflammation, the tremors. I get twitchy. There's a lot of symptoms that I get. It affects every single one of my organs. There's been times I've had to use my EpiPen just to reduce the inflammation enough because the inflammation had gotten so bad in my kidney couldn't drain. So I would have to use an EpiPen just to get my kidney to drain Because if any of you have ever had a kidney stone before and your kidney bags up, you know how painful that can be. And I was looking, and I was going to the doctor trying to figure out what's going on. And my friends were teasing because it was funny. They called me the human thermometer because I would flush and get all bright red, and then the red would just rise and rise and rise. And so I got dubbed the human thermometer for a while. And I was trying to get diagnosed and trying to find out what's going on because I was in pain all the time. And, on top of all the other weird, freaky symptoms. And I would get passed around from doctor to doctor to doctor, and a lot of them would be like, it's all in your head. And they would send me to mental health, because if they couldn't figure it out, it must be something wrong with me up here and not to deal with something in the body. And I got diagnosed with 12 different autoimmune conditions. And I had to shake my hands up and say, hey, nobody has 12 autoimmune conditions. We are missing the bigger picture here. And of course, I had medications for every single one of those conditions. As time went on, I finally got down to the Mayo Clinic, and I got diagnosed at 35, which is 35 years of suffering with this on my own, with leaky mast cell. And the reason I got diagnosed with leaky mast cell is because MCAS and MCAD wasn't even a thing yet. There was no such thing yet. And there would be times that doctors would argue with me, I've never heard of that, that never exists. And I would literally shove my hand out and be like, hi, my name is Donna Kay, and now you've met someone who has. So after I was medically retired, I took a year off because the docs at the Mayo Clinic said to take a year off and just rest. And hopefully your body will reset itself, because I've had such a stressful career. Well, it didn't. And I kept going back, and I got to a point where there's nothing more we can do for you. And I'm passing out all the time. I'm having what feels like mini strokes and temporary blindness and pain and everything you could think of was going wrong. It would get better, and then something else would go wrong, or it would just spiral out of control. And I just got to the point where I said enough is enough, and I started doing the research on my own. And what I started learning was, if you hear anything else that I tell you, this is the part I definitely want you to hear. You can make this better. You can heal. You may not be able to cure it, but you can heal and lead a better quality of life. It takes a bunch of effort on our part, and unfortunately sacrifice, like getting rid of all those processed foods, all those products that have chemicals in it, and kind of going back to clean living and clean eating. That is the only thing that works. And then within that clean eating and clean living, you're still going to have things that you can or cannot have, and keep your stress levels low, which is very difficult to do. There's going to be some things that you can't control, like being allergic to your monthly cycle. You can't control that. So you have to control the things that you can control and let go of the things that you can't control and just work around it. One of the things that I learned that I think is really important is heal the gut. If you heal the gut, that alone can make things a whole lot better. And I also want the doctors to really hear and really listen, because this is something that's going on, and more people are being affected. 10 years ago, it was unheard of, and now it's commonplace, and that raises all sorts of alarm bells for me. We as a society need to start figuring this out, and start figuring out what's triggering all these people to get sick like this, and start fixing it and making it better for everyone. And the first step is doctors believing us, and the next step is developing the medical technology to help us out. So please know that you're not alone. Don't give up. We love you. You are perfect the way that you are.